All righty. Well, everyone, welcome back to a new semester with GOWME. Welcome to the fall semester. We have our first speaker tonight, Dr. Macias. And if for those who are new here, our mission here at GOWME is to create an educational platform where interested students and healthcare professionals can explore and interact with wilderness and emergency medicine. We aim to showcase the diverse spheres in which physicians and healthcare professionals can make an impact and inspire others to think abstractly about the ways in which we can utilize our careers in healthcare and medicine. And we aim to create an international community of wilderness medicine enthusiasts and experts committed to promoting a diverse and culturally competent environment. So if you're not already, join our mailing list. We have bi-monthly lectures. I don't think that's bi-weekly, but bi-monthly lectures. Numerous wilderness opportunities that we email. Fellow case showcases, which I think will be in the spring of this year, where we have different fellowship programs from around the country come, have those program directors come and talk to students on kind of a panel format. And then other certificate courses, free stuff, and more. I think we had an AWS course with one of the organizations we partnered with last year. Also follow us on Instagram and YouTube. This is an old schedule, but we have our August speakers. So today we have Dr. Macias. Coming up in the second or the third week of August, we have another speaker. I forgot her name, but I'm pretty sure she's from the University of Utah, either a fellow or a resident there. And I think it was going to be on something about envenomations and toxins. So TBD, look out for the emails in the following weeks on our next speaker. Also, we'll be doing a gear giveaway with Pit Viper as we did last year. So be on the lookout in the future for these emails coming up to win some cool swag. And then this is just our wonderful board. And then a little bit about our speaker, Dr. Macias. Dr. Macias is originally from the city of Los Angeles. His experiences growing up in impoverished LA, along with his close relationship with his grandfather, a general physician and role model, he was inspired to serve the disadvantaged both locally and internationally. Dr. Macias graduated from the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA. He has been working ever since, developing numerous programs and working with physicians all over the world, including but not limited to India, Mexico, Cambodia, Jamaica, and Nepal. Dr. Macias currently is an EM physician and professor at the University of New Mexico and serves as the Wilderness, Austere, and International Emergency Medicine Fellowship Director. He also is the medical director of the University of New Mexico International Mountain Center and Kumba Climbing Center. Additionally, he is the selection and media editor for the Wilderness and Environmental Medicine Journal, the official journal for the Wilderness Medicine Society. And with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and turn it over to Dr. Macias.
Oh, right on. Thank you very much, Matthew. So can I ask a favor of those of you that are here? It's sometimes difficult to talk to a blackboard. So if I can see your faces, I want to make sure we don't have any bots here, right? Oh, yeah, there we go. And you don't have to stay on, but I just want to make sure that, yeah, we're all there. So what I want to do today is I don't want to do death by PowerPoint. That's always bad. And what I hope to do, my whole impetus is to give you guys ideas on what you can do and what is a wilderness medicine career like. And many people have different ideas, but what I suggest to you is you form something on your own. You get ideas from other people, and then if it's you and if you're promoting yourself, it becomes, I guess, more legitimate and more fun. And I will be honest with you, I am not a self-promoter. So making a slideshow about the me show is really weird for me, but that's okay. The thing is, I want to inspire you to just have fun with whatever you do. So this is me. This is just last summer, or maybe it was winter. It was actually last summer in Chile, which would have been winter here. And I'm teaching a diploma mountain medicine course out there with the Chileans. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But yeah, just have fun. That's the important thing. So, oh yeah. So what I want to do is I'm going to take you through a very circuitous journey. It may not be the most succinct, organized way to take you on a journey, but sometimes journeys involve going on rabbit trails. So as was alluded to, yes, I grew up in a mountain community outside of Southern California. Went to UCLA for med school. It was really great. But this is me at my first year at Loma Linda University. That's where I did my undergrad. And I'm teaching myself how to climb. And I don't know how many of you climb or, do other pursuits. But honestly, those were the days when I didn't really know what I was doing. And you get around a bunch of other friends, and you can see with my hiking boots, that just wasn't the good climbing apparel of the day. But you try your best. And hopefully, with time, you'll be able to find other people that will help you along. And you can't see this too well. Guy, that is really blinded out. But I would go on in my college career, actually going into alpinism. This is me and this other guy, the other guy in the white, on Huascaran. And this is where I saw my first case of hate, because this guy would run up to the top of this 22,000 foot peak, and he just gassed out. So that was the first time I got to experience, not personally, high altitude pulmonary edema. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. And I knew I was going to go into medicine, but yeah, that was really great. But we made it to the top nevertheless. But I would also go on throughout college, and I would also take a gap year between college and med school to teach climbing. So I was a climbing guide, and in the day, we like to wear white. So this is me in Joshua Tree teaching this guy basically the mastery of lead climbing. And this is another guy that I'm guiding up. I always like to take pictures with the shoe, because that shows you're legitimate. I don't know if that means anything, but in California, there's just wonderful climbing out there. And I decided, well, you know what? I need to expand my climbing career. So this is my first big wall climb in Yosemite. It is called the Stex Salothay route. And believe me, that was a really fun route, but it's one of those epics, if you know what I mean, epics, where we got to the top at night, and my climbing buddy and I, we just had to huddle together because we were benighted. We didn't have a way down. It was too dark. Sure, we had headlamps, but going down cliffs in Yosemite at night is not a good thing. So it was miserable. And this would actually be in the back of my mind years later, that I would want to expose other med students like you to suffer, but in a safe way, not suffering the way I did, or people around me did. So the whole idea with wilderness medicine education is to shorten that, how should I say, that learning curve, but to do it in a much safer manner. And throughout my gap year, I would live in Yosemite, and this is me going up El Capitan here with my friend on the portaledge. And I mean, it was just a lot of fun. But I tell you what, this type of experience helped me with before getting into med school was not to fear. So I had a lot of classmates in med school. They were scared to death, like, oh, what do I do if I fail? That sort of thing. And me, I was thinking, well, I've already established a major in my undergrad. It was called clinical laboratory science. So if I didn't make it in medicine, I had a fallback. But the other thing was, oh, come on, that silly test in anatomy, that's not going to scare me. So what if I failed? I've done worse. I shouldn't say worse, but maybe more dangerous or riskier pursuits than failing an exam or doing bad on a rotation. I'm not scared. I've got alternatives. And that's something that even now, as I mentor people, is to basically tell them, get a life outside of medicine, because you become actually more valuable in medicine if you get rid of that idea of just getting tunnel vision. So does that make sense? And by the way, if anybody has any questions on any of this, feel free to interrupt us. Well, anyways, there's two things that probably forced me, if you will use the word forced me to get into what we call wilderness medicine. So I got into UCLA med school. It's 1987. I mean, that's longer than a lot of you were even around. That's crazy. But this guy on the left, Dave Bridges, he would be my protege. I taught him how to climb and all that. And he was just gung-ho. It's always great to have a bestie that you can depend your life with, who says, hey, come on, get out of reading all those med school books. And I mean, UCLA is pretty competitive. And it was like, yeah, although I had this other life, climbing and ice climbing and things like that, I still had to hit it hard because I really wanted to do good and I wanted to get into emergency medicine, my specialty. But this guy kind of kept me centered, if you will, and said, all right, we got to get out and go to Red Rocks, Nevada, for instance. So I was like, okay, I'm with you. The other thing that would change my life was this book, this old book, second edition, Medicine for Mountaineering. So I will tell you, as a third year, I was doing my trauma surgery rotation at UCLA, Harbor UCLA, and I actually really wanted to become a trauma surgeon. I mean, imagine that, an adrenaline junkie like the people here who climb or ski or whatever. I loved that in medicine. And I thought, well, is it going to be emergency medicine or is it going to be trauma? And anyways, I'm waiting for rounds, and I'm sure some of you that have done rotations, you've been around toxic mega rounds where you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for, the chief resident to finish and then the attending and all this kind of stuff. And you're making all your scut notes and all that. And you're like, all right, I'm ready. Well, needless to say, I was bored. So what I did is I just started reading this book. And the big attending, the muy importante attending of the trauma rotation looks at me, 45-year-old guy, mid-age, nicely sized belly. And he says, what is that? And I tell him, this is a book about medicine for mountaineering. And he said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. That's stupid. Put that away. And part of me was like, should I be ashamed? No, I'm going to prove that guy wrong. That was the point where I decided, after having sat down, facing this guy, looking at me with his belly in my face, I was like, I do not want to become like this guy in no way. So trauma surgery was out. So that was a very seminal moment for me to, number one, not be married to the hospital. Number two, to show him wrong that yes, there is such thing as medicine for mountaineering, although I didn't know what that meant. Well, then I would get into residency here at the University of New Mexico, and I decided, well, you know what? If I want to do something with wilderness medicine, I have no idea what that looks like. There weren't a lot of people doing it. I'm still going to devote myself to be the best doctor I could. And this is my wife. And actually, I met my wife when I went on a climbing trip with my friend Dave that I showed you earlier. So, Dave was very important in my life. But you've got to be the best you can be with your training. Don't give up. And sometimes it involves maybe not climbing or paddle boarding or whatever you like to do. Do it for 3 or 4 years or 5 years, whatever your residency requires. Be the best, and then get out there and do what you're going to do. Well, anyways, my friend Dave would just continue to keep me grounded. This is us on the left doing this classic Yosemite climb called the Lost Arrow Spire. I'm the dude in the yellow pants because I always like to wear wild clothes. And we're doing this thing called a Tyrolean traverse. So, dangerous pursuits kept me motivated and kept me motivated to do medicine. I would eventually become an attending, became a chief resident in emergency medicine. But I said, you know what? I still got to tool around a little bit and have some fun. And then this is Dave, who would actually go on to be a very valuable cameraman for National Geographic. So he would film these expeditions and all that. And this is a trip we're getting ready to go to on K2 because I said, well, I don't know what I'm going to do as an attending wilderness medicine. There were a lot of my upper level mentoring attendings who said, well, why don't you do injury prevention and why don't you do trauma? And, you don't know what you really want to do when you're starting out as an academic in medicine. So you say yes to this, you say yes to that. And if you don't know what wilderness medicine is, and if you've never had people before you go, I mean, there are a few people who went, but you could never really get a hold of these guys. They wouldn't give you the time of day. You just do what you did. And I said, well, I've done expeditions. I'm going to be a doctor. So that was kind of my thing. And it would end up that, this is Dave and I, well, not me, but this is Dave. I would be the doctor on a K2 expedition. Unfortunately, that expedition turned out to be very disastrous because our leader of the expedition ended up dying trying to rescue another friend on another expedition. And it was a very harrowing death. And so that kind of soured me as far as doing high risk 8,000-meter peaks. And I was like, well, why am I doing that? I've got a wife, I've got a new kid, I've got a career, and I don't, at the very least, want to be called nubby because I lost all my fingers on frostbite. So I was like, I'm going to cool it as far as these 8,000-meter peaks. I'm just going a little bit too crazy. And I still did some expeditions and I still became an expedition doc. This is another expedition that I did in India and led some people. And this is one of our porters and, doing a little IND of a finger abscess. But this is what really I could say kind of wrecked my world, but in a good way. So the guy who's facing us in the green shirt is a guy named Conrad Anker. He's a very prolific mountaineer. He's done quite a lot of exploits, and I don't know if any of you have heard of him. The other two guys, there's Dave bending down. That's my buddy, and this is Alex Lowe, another very prolific climber. And Dave was invited to take part in this expedition while I'm being an attending and trying to attenuate my desires to go climbing and do these big expeditions and trying to be just a good doctor. I saw Dave do these wonderful exploits. And if I said that I wasn't jealous, I'd be lying. But I guess part of me said, you know what? Let him do this thing. So he's invited as the video cameraman for National Geographic to film Conrad and Alex and a bunch of other people do a ski mountaineering trip, the first one down one of these 8,000-meter peaks, Mount Shishapangma in Tibet. This is an 8,000-meter peak is basically over 26,000 feet. And I was like, wow, what an honor to be able to do this. So unfortunately, these mountains are very dangerous. And just to give you an idea of where Shishapangma is, way over there in Tibet, we've got Mount Everest over here, and I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But, Dave would climb this other 8,000-meter peak, Makalu, and he videoed it. And I think Alex Lowe fell in love with it and said, we're going to get this dude on our expedition. But unfortunately, in October of 1999, that's still a long time ago, Dave and Alex died in an avalanche. And they were buried under probably about 50 feet of debris and avalanche. And if you've had anybody that you've known in an avalanche, or if you've been in an avalanche, it is really horrifying. You can't imagine what's going on through, somebody's mind if they're in an avalanche or family members' mind. And because of this horrific accident, Conrad would end up coming back, and I would end up, knowing Conrad because obviously our two best friends had died in this avalanche. So that was a life-changing experience. And I thought to myself, well, all right, this guy's very famous, Conrad, but what does that have to do with me? So what I decided to do is, this was 2000, and I said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a risk at UNM in my medical school, and all these medical students that love to do backcountry skiing and climbing, I want to develop a safety course, AKA a medical student rotation on avalanche safety, because I wanted to honor my friend and I didn't want to see anybody else injured. And I was getting into this injury prevention anyways in our department. I thought, wow, what a natural fit. This would actually morph into a rotation. Now, at New Mexico, if you know much about New Mexico, in the year 2000, you know what the dean told me? The dean told me, boy, we ain't not done nothing like this before. I don't know if we can do it. And the problem is because sometimes if you've got an innovative idea, but you're too early, that can cause problems. But still, I believed in it. And fortunately, I had a cadre of attendings, my mentors, who believed in the idea and they thought this is a great idea. Why not? And so for the first few years, people in the med school were kind of doing this and watching me. And I would have 7 students the first year. I would have 8 students the next year. And the third year we actually had this course, I had 25 people. And I didn't advertise this, had nothing to do with it. I didn't have any help from outside institutions. I mean, I would try to talk to Paul Auerbach on these people who were kind of seminal in starting wilderness medicine. I would join the Wilderness Medical Society, crickets. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'm just going to do my own thing. So I would also get involved in research. And so this is me. This is not 2000. This is more like 2016 when I went to the big mountains again, doing exercise physiology at 16,000 feet. And I was doing high altitude physiology and testing medications such as nifedipine. What I did find out is that I'm kind of I guess you could call me an expansive personality. I like to do a lot of things like a lot of you do. And so it would end up that, well, I wanted to do research. I also wanted to do education. And I wanted to figure out, hey, wilderness medicine might be a great niche. I want to really do good clinically, but sometimes it's hard to do all those things. And then if you want to continue climbing or skiing or doing ultra marathons, you can't do all this stuff. And so my research advisor said that I would have to choose between research and doing these outdoor pursuits. So I would do a little research, but more outdoor pursuits. I thought, well, if I'm going to do at least spearhead this rotation in wilderness medicine for not only UNM students, but people coming from actually all over the country and all over the world. We've had attendings from New Zealand, from England, France, all kinds of people heard about our course. I said, I think I need to probably put a little more attention in this rotation. Now, if you decide, well, I want to spearhead some sort of an initiative, whether it's a rotation or some kind of experience, or even if you want to get on an expedition, you have to improve your skills. So what I did do is I said, okay, I'm going to join, for instance, the Disaster Medical Assistance Team. That's what they call DMAT. I got involved in international relief. And I thought, even though wilderness medicine was still nascent in the early to the mid 2000s, I thought, well, I need to at least improve my skills, take survival skills, really be legitimate. Because even though I had led people in expeditions, I had organized expeditions, I had that skill, I had the skill of being a guide, there were some skills like survival that I didn't have. So I needed to actually not only do that, but I also needed to find a cadre of individuals through these opportunities that were willing to see my vision and participate with me and help me, because a rotation is a month long. And in the day, I didn't get a lot of time off really clinically. So I was definitely burning the candle at both ends. And so after a while, people said, well, this is a great thing. We're going to give you time off. But initially, people don't believe in it. They don't have the vision, and you have to give people the vision. So, anyways, that's what happened. But what I also did is I would go to these wilderness medicine conferences, and I would learn how the teachers and the workshops went, and I would imitate them, and then I would try to improve it. And not only would I bring these skills back to my rotation, I would also take it to our residency, to our weekly conferences. And this is me in the early stages teaching improvised medicine, even though we really don't put people in hair tractions anymore. This was really fun. And the cool thing was people had in our residency had never done a hands-on thing like this. So this was really exciting. And so that's kind of a fun thing. I would also, during my time at UNM, I would be the medical director for our mountain rescue team, and I would go on missions with them, learn all I could about mountain rescue, learn the medical aspects, and it was really quite a lot of fun. Now, the problem with mountain rescue is if you're working a regular job, mountain rescues occur at very inconvenient times of the day, usually at night. So getting off was always a challenge, but I had a very good group of people working around me that said, well, if you can't make it, Doc, that's fine. But what I ended up doing is I ended up getting paramedics on our team, which is very important, ALS providers, if you know anything about that. And actually, during that time, too, I was a medical director for a few ambulance services as well. So that skill set in EMS, little would I realize that that would actually help me later in my career, even though I was like, oh, I don't know if I need to do EMS. I'm not really into it. And I realized that was actually a good idea to do. I learned a lot of organizational skills with that. So If you can get involved in mountain rescue, go for it. And again, I would continue developing this wilderness medicine rotation that occurred in March because we could get sunny weather in New Mexico. We could get blizzards, and I would expose my students regularly to, again, epic situations that were safe. So this is a group of us this one year where we were in this blizzard. We dug snow caves and snow trenches and slept in them. And then we would end up waking up the next morning with 2 feet of fresh powder. It was amazing. And the cool thing was people or students were saying, I can't believe it. I lived through this thing. And so when you can actually do some sort of thing where people can believe more in what you're teaching them or in their own skills, and they really see that it works, you've got lifelong learners. In fact, on the right here in this simulated high angle rescue, there's this guy looking up with his sunglasses. He would become my first fellowship, my first fellow in my wilderness medicine fellowship, because you don't know what effect you're going to have on people's lives later. And I've consistently, and I think a lot of people can say this with their own rotations, that this was the best rotation I've ever had, because wilderness medicine and the rotations don't just teach you about how to make it in the mountains, how to be a better climber, skier, whatever, how to do better medically, but it helps people believe more in themselves and in the power that they have and that they can make it. And I think that in this day and age now where people are maybe even divided and how are we going to make it? And, oh, I don't know about this person. Where's our world going? Having skills like this will make you think, I can survive the apocalypse. And so that's what I like to tell people, is that take our courses, you'll survive the apocalypse. But there's a certain time where I would try to get ensconced and I wanted to become a national speaker for maybe the WMS, maybe these other wilderness medicine groups. And it was like, again, crickets. And I wasn't sure, well, what am I doing with this rotation? It was a lot of hard work. I was finally getting people interested. But a while ago, I had started an initiative in Mexico with another friend that would teach emergency medicine skills to Mexico. Because in Mexico, there is an emergency medicine specialty, but you don't have to take it in Mexico. You just basically take one obligatory year as an intern, and then you can go hang your shingle. You don't have to be, you don't have to have had any specialty training in any residency. If you don't want, you just become a general practitioner. And I thought, wow, that's really scary. My friend, his name's Haywood Hall, he would actually come across a pretty bad car crash, and he saw some doctor try to intubate somebody on the side of the road, and it did not go well. And he said, yo, Darryl, why don't we teach these modular emergency medicine courses to these doctors? And that way, even if they decide they don't want to do an emergency medicine residency, because you do have to pay for those residencies down there, unlike here, we have GME funding. He said, let's do this thing. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. And we would end up getting favor from the Mexican government. We would get grants from these states like Guanajuato, San Miguel de Allende, if you're familiar with those areas. Those are basically in central Mexico. And they said, all right, we want you to teach airway. We want you to teach ultrasound. And in the time, we in 2003, none of us knew ultrasound. All of you that go into medicine will know ultrasound. So it was incumbent upon me to learn how to do ultrasound, to teach these Mexicans ultrasound. And so PACE-MD would become a very big thing throughout my career, not having anything necessarily to do with wilderness medicine. But you see, this opportunity expanded my, how should I say, maybe influence, maybe possibilities to teach wilderness medicine in Latin America. It does help if you master another language, though. So we fast forward 2012 to 2015. I'm asked to help head ultrasound courses in Santiago, Chile, in the various universities, teach them how to start ultrasound programs and how to do ultrasound. And unwittingly, back in Mexico, when I was learning ultrasound, my department said, hey, you know what? Ultrasound's a big thing. We want you to be the ultrasound guru, the director. So I would do that. So all that to say, don't just focus on one skill, wilderness medicine, have other skills. Be I guess for lack of a better word, polyvalent, have multiple uses, because that's going to serve you better in your career. And then you decide, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. And so this was just an opportunity, again, not anything to do with wilderness medicine. But what we would also do is, I'm kind of a guy who thinks out of the box. And when I do that, I say, well, let's do things that other people haven't done. So far, they hadn't invited me to speak at the WMS conferences. So I said, we're going to start our own thing and offer continuing medical education credits to doctors, to nurses, to paramedics overseas. So we ended up taking kind of a financial risk, but we ended up saying, all right, we are going to have a mountain medicine course in Chamonix. You're going to get 35 CME credits. You'll also get to climb Mont Blanc with me. Here I'm leading some people up in the Alps in France. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we would end up having these CME courses in France, in Italy, we would do diving courses in Hawaii. We did courses in Ecuador, a lot of places, and people really liked it. But I tell you what, it was a lot of work. But because of these things and because of the other things we were doing, we had become international. And me and the core faculty that I had kind of aggregated and said, come to me, believe in this vision, and I will make you great. Well, we got some kind of notoriety, even though we weren't trying to promote ourselves. And so, it would end up that we got a lot of opportunities. And so one day the Wilderness Medicine Society says, hey, would you talk to us? Yeah, sure, I'll talk to you guys and I'll do one of your lectures and stuff. And I guess they liked what I did. And then I got offered to do a few things, become the section editor for the Wilderness Medical Society magazine, which is called Wilderness Environmental Medicine. And that's really cool because I get to see all of these papers coming through. I get to maybe look at the statistics, the way the writing is, and I get to say, that's good, that's not good. And I send these papers, these manuscripts out to other reviewers, and they actually augment my knowledge. So, being really involved in reading the literature is so good. And so I've been able to do that. Also, be a reviewer for some other emergency medicine journals. But one really cool thing was I was on the MRAP podcast. I don't know if you know what MRAP is. Some of you might know, but it's an emergency medicine reviews and perspectives. And that came about because they needed somebody to do their MRAP in French. And I'm also fluent in French. So again, learn a lot of languages. And I guess MRAP, like me, I learned a lot from them. And then the Wilderness Medical Society said, hey, would you do this podcast for us? And I said, sure. And, it's become pretty popular. So I really enjoy doing that. But we finally coalesced and we said, all right, we've got a lot of these opportunities. We're taking people in all kinds of experiences, whether it's, showing them how to do mountain rescue, like the right lower area is, the left lower area, taking people on diving trips. This is our rotation, by the way, our med student rotation, taking people up the mountain, whatever it is. We had the cohesion to teach something called a diploma of mountain medicine. And I'll talk to you about that. But a few of us decided, why don't we develop a center where we get all these disparate ideas? We've had faculty that want to do research. Let's put it together in something called the IMMC, the UNM International Mountain Medicine Center. And because of our track record of success and how we were bringing notoriety to our department and to UNM, they said, sure, you can have a building. And they gave us a building. And here we are, the IMMC. I wouldn't have been able to do this alone. Definitely had help from other people that, were very supportive of that. But we decided, why don't we teach something called the Diploma of Mountain Medicine program that shows physicians and nurses and paramedics high value medical rescue skills. And so the Diploma of Mountain Medicine program, there's 27 across the world. The two that are in the United States are the WMS Wilderness Medicine program. They teach their DIM and we teach a DIM. So it's basically a 9-day course in the winter, 9-day course in the summer with didactics that are done online. So you don't have to sit in a classroom and do a death by PowerPoint. And believe me, I think our PowerPoints are actually really fun because they're not all PowerPoints. But what we do is we give people hands-on experience on how to do rescue skills, technical rescue skills, as well as mountain medicine skills. And you may be able to see on the lower right-hand corner, we're actually doing helicopter EMS and helicopter rescues, and there aren't many places in the US that do that. So we've really expanded our reach. I'm going to try to play this a little bit just to show you how to have fun with whoever you're teaching. And this other guy with his foot towards you is one of my fellows. His name is Nick. Well, Nick, it's about 115 out here in the middle of Death Valley. We're getting ready for the Badwater 2022. How was your day working out?
Pretty good. Just another day in the office. No complaints. How about you?
Well, you know what? I'm feeling super good because I've got this energy drink. Tell me what your experience was in the military with guys drinking a lot of these energy drinks.
Good question. So the thing you gotta know about soldiers, including myself, you can live on a diet of a couple of things. Number one is beef jerky. Number two is a nicotine product of some variety. And number three are energy drinks. A lot of the soldiers that were doing the specialized schools where I was stationed would be doing pretty intensive coursework with a lot of physical maneuvers as well.
So having said that, what I'm showing here is this is one of our modules, and this is in Death Valley, California. So we're not just limited to the mountains. We also have done event medicine with our IMMC. This is a race called Badwater, and it's a 135-mile race that just happened this last July. We usually partake of it every year, and we send our residents out there to this ultra marathon where you start in Badwater, Death Valley, which is this year is about 120 degrees, and you race 135 miles to Mount Whitney. And so that's a very grueling race, but believe me, very interesting. So you get involved with heat-related emergencies. You treat that, some altitude emergencies. There's all kinds of things that you can do outside of what we would call expedition medicine that'll still give you those necessary skills to be able to augment your skills. And in our fellowship and in a lot of our training, we actually do something called Mythbuster. So on the left is a bunch of people that are exercising in a sauna. And what we do is we heat them up, and then we test various methods to cool people down to see, okay, does the tepid water and fan work? Do the ice packs work? Does toweling off work? And we do the same with our hypothermia labs as well. So this guy on the right, we're actually testing his core body temperature. And we do several things where we have these different methods like buddy warming. Does that really work? Do fires work? Do heat packs work? All these kind of things, because the whole idea is to myth bust. What they tell you in the wilderness medicine textbooks may not always be true. So we want to find out. And so this is my one of my other fellows in the nice green jacket, just checking this guy's temperature. So we really have a lot of fun. We don't just do mountain medicine. This is a group of us, and my fellow helps us with these sort of rotations. This is out in Hawaii, and we're actually taking a bunch of medical students out in Kauai, and I'm also teaching a course here on a Colorado lake at 10,000 feet. So we actually do marine medicine as well, but diving in altitude's a little crazy. And this is some of our diploma mountain medicine courses. We're teaching people how cognizant are they, how's their cognition if they try to tie a knot, because we teach knots, while they're freezing. So this is a hypothermia lab. And we have brought ultrasound to the mountain environment and mountain rescues you see here on this photo here. So we're really having a lot of fun. The other thing is clinically, if you can, take part in wilderness medicine expeditions, but a lot of the procedures that you might see in our box book, there are going to be things that you may not actually do if you have the ability, practice skills even in the hospital. So this lady here that we're intubating, and don't worry, we got permission. I'm actually teaching one of our wilderness medicine fellows how to do a digital tactile intubation, because I don't know if you'll ever do that in your life, but you've got to be good at that. And I would get permission to be able to do some of these techniques as long as, a patient wasn't dying or crashing. You may get frowned upon that. You have to be very careful. But the whole idea is you don't want to do skills read out of a wilderness medicine text and just try it for the first time. You want to have some skill. So let's go back to the Himalayas. Let's go to Shishapangma, Mount Everest. Now the year is 2016, and I get a call from Conrad Anker, who's way on the right. I'm on the left. This is us. We're doing a National Geographic thing where we're putting weather instruments up on Everest. But Conrad would call me out of the blue, and this was after one of our successful rotations, and he said, "Hey, you know what? There's a group of climbers that found our buddies, Dave and Alex, basically coming out from the glacial warming, whatever it is." And I'm like, "What?" So Conrad said, "Come with me. I need a doctor to be on this expedition." So I was like, "Okay, well, that's kind of good." So it ended up that we took the trek up to Shishapangma, 8,000 meters, 26,000 feet, to find our friends Dave and Alex. And it was really good closure. And we had a few cases of hape and haste that I got to treat as well, because it was a very hastily put together expedition. And so all the norms of acclimatizing and things like that were fairly well ignored. So this is a guy on our expedition. You can only see his head. I'm treating his high altitude cerebral edema, but he did well. Well, it would end up that Conrad said, "Hey, you know what? Because of what happened to my friend Alex Lowe, I started this group. It's called the Khumbu Climbing Center, devoted for Alex to be able to teach Sherpas how to rescue themselves and their clients. They need to know technical mountaineering skills as well as medical skills. Are you available to come out?" And I was like, "That's weird." And I told him about what I had started with our IMMC, which I could conceivably say was because of Dave. So we would end up becoming friends. And now we go to the Khumbu Climbing Center every January to be able to do medical skills and some technical climbing and training and stuff like that. And this area is in an area in Nepal pretty close to Everest Base Camp. And so these Nepalis always take people up, and it's just a wonderful experience. The other thing is that, I wanted to become a speaker. Well, I got to do a lot of speaking. This is at ASEP, and my lectures are a little bit different than the normal lectures. And so I'm very hands-on, because lectures, again, can become very boring. So anyways, I've been able to, fortunately, take some of my crazy ideas and divulge them to nationally and internationally. And it would end up that with our IMMC, we've got collaborations with Chile, with Argentina, Italy, just a lot of countries, France, and we do rescues with them. Here's the Khumbu Climbing Center again, and there's Conrad himself taking a selfie of himself as we're doing an imitation rescue. And then this is one of my other fellows, Jake, who would become a very good right-hand friend to me in our IMMC. So just wonderful experiences. And this is the climbing gym where we teach a lot of our classes at the KCC. So that's just kind of fun there. And we still do a lot of trainings. There's that guy, Nick, in the red jacket. And this guy in the dreadlocks is named Phil. And he actually took a team of Black people up to Everest back in 2022. And so I'm just talking to Phil at the WMS. So it's always good to kind of collaborate and get to know people and join in what people are doing. So this is basically what we do. And we're very regular ourselves in making sure that we are up to date on our training. So I don't personally have to worry about, okay, what is the new knot? What is the new rescue system? I actually have a cadre of individuals that do that for me. I can concentrate on maybe more medical stuff. This is just another happenstance picture at Burning Man. So this is where I'm going to be heading next week. And Burning Man, you may think, what does that have to do with medicine? Well, the first year I went out there, I was invited to become part of the medical team. And I said, well, this is fun, but I do this all the time. Let's do something else. So I actually started a camp of people where we serve tea. We do a lot of other things. And don't worry, we're not strange people. But Burning Man is interesting because that's another way to sharpen your expedition skills, because as the team leader, I have to basically be involved in 25 people's well-being out there, food, clothing, camping material, all this kind of stuff. So logistically, if you can do anything like that, you're on your way to becoming a good expedition leader. This is another thing that's just totally crazy, but I decided I was going to take a sabbatical and develop virtual reality. I really hadn't had much experience in computer programming, so I took 6 months off, learned how to do virtual reality to teach people how to do knots and things like that. And I didn't get as far as I wanted to, but now that I have a little more time, I'm probably going to get back into virtual reality. And this came because of COVID, because with COVID, we couldn't train with one another. And a lot of people in emergency medicine, in the wilderness medicine community, lost their skills. So why not use VR so that people could basically sharpen their skills in the comfort of their own home? And this is a guy, my friend Jason Williams, who directs the IMMC, and he's trying out my crazy idea. And, you know, this is just some other pictures that we're doing, high angle rescue on ice. It's always a lot of fun. So that's really all I have to say. I bid you well. If you have any questions, we can open it for the time remaining, and I will be quiet.
Hi, Dr. Macias. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Claire. I'm a second year at Burrell, actually down the road from you in Las Cruces. Thanks for your talk today. A lot of interesting stuff. It's got my mind spinning in like 1,000 different directions. But I wanted to kind of start by asking if there's anything you think we can do as medical students to prepare ourselves well for, you know, either a career in emergency medicine or, and especially in wilderness medicine, as far as skill building goes, but in a way that's realistic for, you know, the life of a medical student. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know in Las Cruces if they're offering you to. So what happened at UCLA as an intern, they had one of the attendings come and teach, like it was an emergency medicine club. And so we actually got to, you know, practice how to do an examination in emergency medicine terms. So getting involved in that, getting involved in an emergency medicine interest group really helped and helped my interest, and people would know who I am. Doing rotations later in a few emergency departments was also very helpful. And, you know, at this point in wilderness medicine, as a med student, you probably have to try to go to these conferences and just try to figure out their shtick. But also, if you have something that you're really passionate about, whether it's maybe kayaking or climbing or something like that, just take that skill and make it really good, because it'll help you later. Some of the speakers that you're going to have later, you know, we'll talk about dive medicine and things like that. And that's also a passion of mine, but just take that one skill. Don't make it too complicated. For me, it was climbing, and I became really good at that. And then the ideas just finally came. Just try to get involved with other people and bother them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And your expedition into VR was interesting. Do you know Dr. Todd Clapp at Colorado State University at all? Have you heard of him? He has developed some pretty impressive VR software for anatomy learning. So I just wanted to plug him for a second. I was in his grad program, and he has, I mean, it's a fully fledged software company at this point, but yeah, he's pioneered some really impressive VR technology for anatomy and imaging.
Oh, wow. No, I'd have to get a hold of him. I'll look him up. I hadn't heard of him, but yeah, the whole
Definitely.
idea, yeah, realistic, because I had to learn, you know, some pretty crazy coding programs. And I'm actually also with the School of Engineering, so they're able to help. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, you've got good resources too at the university, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I had a quick question. So you were talking about that wilderness medicine course. Is that available for like fourth year medical students then? And also like, I guess, visiting students or only for students at the University of New Mexico at this time?
Oh, no way. No way. So the first year I started it, it was just for UNM. And then the second year, some rando guy from Ohio signed up. And I'm like, yeah, we should expand this. And so, yeah, it's for every fourth year med student, wherever you're from. And even if you're from Canada, if you're from Egypt, I mean, we've had people come from all over the world. We had an emergency medicine resident come from Saudi Arabia. I mean, this is crazy. And so, absolutely, sign up this year. It's so wonderful. And I don't personally have, I'm not organizing it. I gave that to somebody else a while ago so that I could do other things, but I still participate in it. It's so fun.
Awesome. Good to
Yeah.
know for my upcoming fourth year then.
Yeah. Yeah. We want you. We want you.
I'll do it. That'd be awesome if it fits in.
Yeah. You
Uh,
and your chip there.
Any other questions? Drop them in the chat or just unmute yourself. But if not, thank you for all attending. That was awesome, Dr. Macias. Awesome hearing about how your background kind of formed where you're at today and seeing all the different avenues you took. That was really, really inspiring.
Oh, thanks. And if anybody wants, I can leave you my email. I'm going to type it in the chat. And, take a screenshot of that because after the meeting, you probably won't get access to that unless you have the recording. So you can just take a screenshot.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
that's great. And the other thing is I do want to mention I see that sometimes this sort of thing, wilderness medicine, will actually enhance your career in whatever you do. And kind of my impetus, I mentioned mentoring. That's what I do now is I do a whole lot of mentoring. I'm starting other people on their trajectory towards wilderness medicine programs, and I have an affinity to get more of a diverse group of individuals to do that. So, my heritage, I'm half Mexican, Apache, and then white. So I've got all kinds of Heinz 57 going on. But I, definitely, that's why I like to work in Latin America because, being fluent in Spanish is so huge for so many reasons. But, if you go to a residency that, where there's a lot of Spanish speakers, and who knows, you might unwittingly get invited to participate in some wilderness medicine program in Latin America because they still don't have quite as many people in Latin America that do this. They want to do it, but they still look to us, the gringos, to be able to help them down there. So it's a big opportunity. Nepali, I have had to learn Nepali to be able to do that. You don't have to speak Nepali, but that's a thing. As far as like people getting involved in the KCC, that's a little more difficult. That's usually reserved for a fellow and an attending. So I can't really have too many people come out unless you've got technical climbing skills and could offer something. Then sometimes they'll kind of figure that out. But yeah. So yeah, drop me a picture. Do you have any tips for learning medical terminology in another language? Are there any resources you recommend? So what I would do is stick with me for a moment. So what you have to do, so I've had to be very fluent in Spanish and French. French, I actually got to work in Paris in SAMU, but I had to have books like this. And you can get these books. And the important thing is with whatever specialty you're going in, you want to be proficient in that language. So for me, the Tintinelli's emergency medicine book in Spanish was huge. And all I do is I've got a baseline Spanish and I just learn the vocabulary. And me, I like to actually speak out loud. When I speak out loud, I actually become a little more fluent in just saying things. I'm not like a word salad kind of guy because I'm, when you're reading to yourself, out loud, you're hearing it, you're seeing it, and you're voicing it. It's 3 ways that you're learning something. So I would recommend starting out by just getting a basic book on that. And so there's actually a mountain medicine book as well that might be in Spanish, and it's called, hold on with me. So because I'm working with Italy and I'm learning Italian right now, I'm waiting for my book in Italian, but this is Mountain Emergency Medicine. Yours truly is in there, as well as the Auerbach book. But, you know, something like this has been translated in German, Spanish, Italian, a few other languages. So just look this book up and get it, and that's how you can be good at your terminology. Excellent. All right. Well, thank
I have
you.
one more
everybody.
question if you have
Oh, yeah.
time.
Yeah, sure.
I see your name on the faculty list for the upcoming symposium in Silverton. Are you going to be teaching at that?
Is that right? I didn't know that. No, I'm not teaching there.
Okay. Well, it's the, let's see,
Not
I'm
this
probably
year.
not even, the International Mountain Medicine Symposium in Silverton.
Yeah,
Okay.
let me we just talked about it. I was going to my 40th high school reunion.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
I wasn't planning on it, but maybe they want me. I don't know.
No,
Don't know.
your name is just on the faculty list, so it's, I don't know, it's probably an exhaustive list. I was just curious.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah.
I love that conference though. If you could go, Claire, that is really, it's a treasure. And
I
we
am
help.
thinking about it. Yeah, I would really like to do at least, if not this year, then next year. I'm actually from Durango, so that's my favorite place in the world up there. So it's gonna happen this year or next.
Well, I'd love to meet you out there. So that'd be great.
Likewise.
Yeah, that'll be good. And we'll have Matthew take our course and we're going to be good.
Hopefully, yep. That'd be
Okay.
awesome. All
Well,
right.
thank you very much for this opportunity. I've had a good time. Hope you guys have gotten something out of this, and hopefully it was cohesive.
Oh yeah,
Thank-
it was awesome.
All right.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Take care,
Great to
everybody.
meet you.